Hello everybody, welcome to the Trophy Room, a PlayStation show made by the players for the players. I'm your host Joseph, and today I'm going to be giving my thoughts on the PlayStation 5 30 days in, and if you should be getting a PlayStation 5 at launch, or if you should be waiting. So with that, this is going to be a big, juicy video. We got a lot to cover and not a lot of time to do it, so let's just jump right in to the design of this console, which starting here is probably the most controversial because a lot of people have some thoughts on this design, and I get it because when you look at it, it is a large and in charge machine, but overall I really dig the design here. I like that PlayStation embraced the weird nature of this design and really wanted to do something different and something striking, and I really think that they nailed it here on how this console looks. But I get it. Listen, it's large and it's going to be taking up a lot of attention and a lot of room in your entertainment setup. But I have to say, 30 days in, it's not really intruding on my gameplay because I'm not hearing this thing. That was one problem with the PlayStation 4 and the 4 Pro, was that during gameplay, and maybe even out of gameplay, these things just sounded like jet engines. Because this console is so large, it's been able to distribute heat very, very well, and the fan inside is incredibly silent, so I don't hear this console when I'm playing my games with or without headphones, and that's just such a huge plus. Honestly, it's not its large nature that kind of puts me off, it's actually the stand. The stand is cheap, it feels flimsy. Yes, I don't like how you have to screw it on to stand it up vertically, and I hate this stand if you try to lay it down horizontally. It doesn't feel like a good fit, and if you just try to nudge it in a single direction, this thing could very well easily slide right off. So the design is a bit of a give and a take. It's big, but it's big because it needs to stay silent, it needs to stay cool, but it doesn't need that stand, so that is a bit of a negative for me. With that said, we get into the UI, which is kind of the complete opposite of the PlayStation 5 design, which is this big monolith thing that's really just gets in the way. The UI is all about getting in and out of your experience as fast as possible. They want to make you forget that the UI is even here when you're playing games. And the cool thing about it is it's very reminiscent to the PlayStation 4 and the PlayStation 3 UI. It's just a very nice improvement and evolution of the UIs from the past. And switching from game to game is incredibly fast. Information just pops up within a blink of an eye, and it's truly impressive when you're getting into a game from a cold boot up. For example here, Spider-Man Miles Morales, because of that super fast SSD, starts the boot up in less than 15 seconds from a cold boot, and I'm already swinging through the city of New York in less than 15 seconds. That's truly impressive. And when you take a look at a game like Demon's Souls, when I'm in the Nexus and I want to just hop to a different level, I load that level in less than 5 seconds flat. That's awesome. That's not something you can get with the previous consoles, and it's honestly one of the major selling points of the PlayStation 5 is its speed. That said, the speed goes across the UI in general. Like when we take a look at the media tab, and yes, the PlayStation 5 has a media tab, it's also incredibly fast. It ditches the weird folder on the PlayStation 4 that was slow and clunky, and now you have something that truly looks like it belongs on an Apple TV or a Google Chromecast. It looks like a standalone media tab that is really competent. Now, that said, not all the apps are there yet, but you do have a few at launch that's going to hold you off, and really at this point has become my main media hub is my PlayStation 5. Next up on this tour to the PlayStation 5 UI, we get to the PlayStation Store itself, and what an improvement it is from the clunky app on the PlayStation 4. Now it's baked into the UI itself, which means games load as fast as your internet is. So I have gigabit internet, so I click on a game and I immediately see how much it is, if I want to put it on a wish list, how many gigs it is, and the media loads up incredibly fast as well. Trailers just start. There's no waiting for them. They just start running. And yeah, pictures load up incredibly fast as well. Nothing here loads. It all seems like it's instantaneous. And finally, we have a solution to the search bar. Look, that pinwheel search thing on the PlayStation 4 was awful. Now we finally have a digital keyboard to brag about. And the thing I keep mentioning is speed of this console, and that's where we kind of hit a problem with the PlayStation 5. Look, the storefront is great, it loads incredibly fast, the UI is just quick on its feet, it loads up games almost instantaneously, the thing is fast. But the problem with the SSD is that it doesn't give you a lot of space, because some of the space is actually reserved to make the UI and the system itself so quick, and the other half is just for the OS alone, making it so that you only have about 667 gigs of space to work with. That's not a lot. As we've seen, games are getting bigger, they're not getting smaller. Games like Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War isn't just a really big title, it's a really big game itself. It takes up over 200 gigs of space. That's almost a third of the hard drive just taken for Call of Duty. There's just not enough space here. In less than a month, I've already started to delete games off my hard drive because I just don't have enough space. That's a problem, and there's no way to put these games on an external hard drive. You can only do that with PlayStation 4 titles, and there is no external expansion pack yet for this console. Those will come in time. We just don't know when, but that is a worrying thing that I'm already a month in, and I'm already trying to look at some type of solution for my storage. There are a few other quick things that I want to mention, the things that I like about this UI. That's game presets. If a game has a difficulty mode, I can set it in the system that, hey, I want all my games to have a normal mode. Hey, if there's a performance or resolution mode, I can set it in the system to set every game to a performance mode if I want it. And if you're an inverted player out there, guess what? First off, you make me sick. Only kidding. You can actually set it within the system to make your games run in invert, which I know that's a huge problem for you inverted players out there, because you kind of have to pick and choose the games that you're playing, because if they support it or not. Now it's on the system itself, and that's a huge plus. And the create button, we can't ignore what was one of the best features on the PlayStation 4, now improved on the PlayStation 5. The create button is instantaneous. Once I press it, bam, the option is there. There is no weird lag in between. I can start taking snapshots immediately. And the really cool thing is, if I've just done something really cool in, let's say, Call of Duty, and I just want to record that moment, I can do that right then and there by pressing the create button and just taking out 15 seconds, 30 seconds, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, up to an hour of 4K video from my PlayStation 5. That's a really awesome thing. So the create button is a great improvement on the share button. And when it comes to a small grievance or something that I feel like is a questionable design decision, it is Control Center. That is now your new quick menu on the PlayStation 5. When you hit the PlayStation button, it immediately sends you to a quick action bar menu, which you can mute your mic, you can play with your sound settings. There's awesome Spotify integration. You can view your parties, your notifications, even your switcher, which switches to your most recent apps. And it has this activity bar, which if you're in a game, you won't be paused. You'll still be playing the game. It'll actually show you instantaneously whether it's news about the game, the level you're playing, how long it will take to complete the level. If you're a PlayStation Plus member, it'll actually help you to show you where the latest hidden item is or how to defeat a boss. It's awesome little guides that you don't need to go on Google anymore to see. It's right there in front of you. Activity cards are a great idea. I just don't think they're there yet, because it's showing me a whole lot of information. It's just not the information that I need or that I care about at that moment. And in Control Center, there is no way to see my trophy list or in the activity cards as well. I need to actually back out into the game hub to view the list of my trophies, which is a weird inconvenience. And when it comes to my captures, I can only see my recent captures, not from the specific game I'm playing. To view all my captures, I need to go into my storage, into my media settings, and then to view all my captures from there. It's just a bunch of weird little inconveniences that I think has a good foundation here that we're kind of beta testing at the moment. So now let's talk about gaming on the PlayStation 5. First, you might be asking yourself, is this console backwards compatible with the PlayStation 4? And yes, but put an asterisk on it. 99% of games will work from your PlayStation 4 onto your PlayStation 5, with only like a dozen or so games unable to make that jump across generation. But the games that you really care about, like your Fortnite, your Call of Duty Warzone, your Rainbow Six Siege, those games and service games will actually get PlayStation 5 upgrades when you buy the console, and for the most part free as well. It's a publisher by publisher basis, but for the most part they're free. And for the games that you download onto your PlayStation 5, some games will take advantage of that hardware, like The Witcher 3 and Sekiro Shadows Die Twice will actually run at improved frame rates because it's running on the PlayStation 5. And some games have upgrades like Days Gone taking full advantage of the console itself, making it feel like a next-gen experience. So backwards compatibility on the PlayStation 5 is there, and it is impressive. That being said though, let's talk about the launch titles for the PlayStation 5, and here we're focusing on exclusives. And here's where it's kind of disappointing. There's few and far between when it comes to actual exclusives on the PlayStation 5. Most PlayStation exclusive games on the PlayStation 5 you could play on your PlayStation 4. So games like Miles Morales, games like Sackboy: A Big Adventure, Bugsnax, Temtem, The Pathless, all can run on your PlayStation 4 as well as your 5. So you might be saying, Joe, what's the point if there's not a lot of games that are actually PlayStation 5 exclusives? What's the benefits? And honestly, when we take a look at next gen, we often want that jump to be something like the 6th generation entering the 7th, the PS3, the Xbox 360, where we got in HD resolutions. That's not what this launch is going to be about. You're going to see noticeably upgraded games for sure, but it's more in things like, for example, Miles Morales. The ray tracing in this game is beautiful. How reflections look when you're staring at a puddle or a window or a mirror is truly shocking. It helps build out that environment. And speaking of building out the environment, lighting on the PlayStation 5, global illumination really makes the world feel a lot more warm and actually makes it feel more, I hate to say it, it's so cliche, but lived in. Miles Morales looks better because of the lighting. And when we get to Demon's Souls, this game is the showstopper. This is the showcase of the power of the PlayStation 5. It's absolutely beautiful while kicking your teeth in, and at the same exact time, the sound in this game is truly impressive. Tempest sound on the PlayStation 5 is a game changer. It makes things sound more defined, it makes sounds more crisp, and you really get a good sense of situational awareness. You'll really tell if there's an enemy in front of you, an enemy behind you, an enemy below you, side to side. Your situational awareness is key here, and it makes you more precise of pointing out where an enemy's coming in games like Call of Duty or Fortnite, because you could tell where the footsteps are actually coming from. It's really impressive. Now, Sackboy: A Big Adventure doesn't do too many crazy things with the PlayStation 5, but it's an awesome family game and something that you could play with your kids, very reminiscent of Mario 3D World, and honestly, something I prefer way more. Godfall is your more traditional launch game. I don't know if we're going to really remember it in 2 years. The game's strikingly beautiful. It's a lot of style, but not a lot of substance. It is a bit of a pass for me. When you take a look at The Pathless, this game does ooze with style and also has a lot of depth to it as well, and it's a beautiful indie game. Then you got Bugsnax, which honestly looks really weird, but it's more of a Pokemon Snap clone than anything, with a brilliant cast of characters and some of the best voice actors in the industry really bringing these characters to life. It's shockingly charming. And last but not leastly, let's talk about Astro's Playroom, which is probably one of the best pack-in games since Wii Sports, because it really does show you what this system is all about. Because look, next-gen games are going to look greater, they're going to load faster, they're going to sound better, and that's all great. But the one thing that we never really realize is rumble, and how it hasn't really changed much since the 90s. We only miss it when it's gone. Looking at you, 6-axis controller, God, you're awful. This game really does innovate in terms of how rumble is featured in games with haptic feedback. Haptic feedback is an absolute game changer. For example, in Astro's Playroom, Astro has little metal feetsies, and when he's walking across little metal floors, you actually feel dings, not rumbles, but dings on the controller as he's walking. When he's in little sandstorms, you actually feel like sand is being pelted on the controller, and you actually feel like you're stepping on sand when he's walking across it. It's giving you different sensations than just shakes and things that really immerse you more into the experiences. It's truly something really special. And with haptic feedback coupled with the adaptive triggers on the DualSense is also a game changer. There are little resistors in each trigger that make it so that it's more resistant when you're pulling down on the trigger. Now that sounds awful at first, but when you take a look at something like Astro's Playroom, when you're using these little spring mechs to jump across platforms, it'll actually feel like the trigger is on a spring because of how it feels, and it immerses me more in that moment. When I'm playing Call of Duty, it actually uses adaptive triggers perfectly because guns shoot like I'm shooting a Nerf gun. Like for an M16, I pull it down single fire, and there's just a quick little resistance to it until when I'm holding it at full auto, I actually feel a kickback in the triggers like it's emulating recoil. It blows my mind. You might be saying, Joe, that's weird. It is something you have to feel to believe, but it never gave the enemy an advantage because I had that resistance on the trigger. I actually felt like I had the advantage because I was more immersed in my experience. Like casting spells in Demon Souls actually feels like the bolt of fire is traveling below my controller and then dissipates upwards. It feels great. When I'm thwipping through Spider-Man, I actually feel like I am doing the little thwip that Spider-Man does. It's freaking awesome. This thing really does help me immerse me in my games. And when I'm using other controllers, I'm missing the sensations that this controller is giving me. So at the end of the day, let's talk a little bit more about the controller itself, because haptics and the adaptive triggers are one thing. This is one of the most comfortable controllers Sony's ever made. Nay, the most comfortable controller Sony's ever made. This thing feels incredibly nice in my hands. Like, it fills my palms of my hands really well. Stop it, you perverts. And when my bottom fingers wrap around the grips, it actually feels really comfortable. Like the most comfortable grip I've had on a controller to date. Again, it's something that I, for the first time, prefer over an Xbox controller. Don't tell those kids, they'll yell at me. So yeah, the controller is insanely comfortable. And the thing that impresses me the most is that these little gimmicks don't get in the way. Like the touchpad, yeah, sure, it's still a giant select button. The light bar is not intrusive and it's not going to shine a light on your TV, which is always annoying. And yes, the speaker's still there, but there's actually a mic that helps you make commands towards your PS5. And if you don't have a headset or your headset's charging, whatever the case may be, you can use this as a mic to talk to your friends. Is it the best mic? Nay. But is it something that's there for people that don't have something? Yeah, and that's freaking awesome. Now, last but not leastly, let's talk about the battery of this controller. With all the tech built inside of it, it has about a 10-hour lifespan. And that's what I've used it for. About 10 to 11 hours, and then I need a recharge. But honestly, it's really impressive. And since I have USB-C charging, if I plug it in directly to my PlayStation 5, this thing charges insanely quick. So it has a great battery life, it has a good recharge rate, and honestly, it's one of the most comfortable controllers I've ever held. So when I take a look at the next gen launch lineup, it's really how games look, how games sound, and how games feel coupled together that really make this launch lineup one of my favorite launch lineups ever. And when I take a look at the future of PlayStation, I'm looking at the same bangers that were on the PlayStation 4 and their sequels coming to PlayStation 5. I see and feel like that streak is still lasting with the launch lineup on the PlayStation 5 being so freaking good. So with all that said and with all that out of the way, do I recommend the PlayStation 5? Absolutely. Again, this has been one of my favorite launches ever. This has been a fantastic way to start my generation. And I'm really optimistic for the future of this generation, for the future of PlayStation. So yeah, go out there, buy this. It's definitely worth the $400 or $500 price tag on this console. I do feel like this is an experience that I can't get anywhere else. But at the same exact time, as much as I'm glowing about the PlayStation 5, it is not worth you going to a scammer and getting scammed. It's not worth $1,000. Thing ain't worth $1,500. It's not worth $2,000. This thing ain't a liver. You don't need it that bad. Don't go out there to a Skechers and, meet some guy outside a van to get robbed. Don't do that. That's stupid and that's irresponsible. Don't get scammed by scammers. Seriously, they're the worst. So with that said, go out there, be responsible, find yourself a PS5, wear a mask, and have fun with this console. It's going to be a lot of fun. Now, if you have any more questions, please make sure you leave them down below. And if you like videos like these, well, guess what? Here at the Trophy Room, that's what we do. We do reviews, news, and a podcast called the Trophy Room PlayStation Podcast, where me and my best friend Kyle talk about the latest, greatest, and all things PlayStation each and every Thursday. So if you like this video, please hit like, share, subscribe. With all that said, with all that out of the way, everybody, keep your wits about you, and have a nice one.